In this video, we're going to be replacing this rear brake hose here. There's only one. It goes from the main line that goes to the rear wheels, and it's built in with this splitter valve that connects it to both of the rear wheels. To replace this rear brake hose, what I'm going to do first is remove this breather hose from here, and let's try and break this free. Got a 14mm socket on here. Try to break this thing free. Okay, it's spinning out of the threads, but it's stuck in this fitting. So let's get some locking pliers on here, lock them on nice and tight, and use that to hopefully hold the fitting in place while we try to spin this bolt free. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to clamp the brake hose right here with some of these special pliers. If you don't have these, you can just use a pair of locking pliers. Clamp it tight to prevent brake fluid from coming out. Then we're going to come back down here with a 10mm flare nut wrench. I recommend using a flare nut wrench because, as you can see, it grips onto more sides. Try to break this fitting free. I have a new line here. Someone put a new line in recently, so thankfully this one will come out very easily, which is great. You don't want it to take the line with it and strip it or bend it in any way. Set this aside, and then we need to disconnect the line on the other side, which is just the same procedure basically. This one seems to be an 11mm, different fitting. Okay, this one's out. Pull this one away. Now let's get some locking pliers on here, nice and tight. There we go, just like that. This, like I said, is already broken free off the threads. The problem was in here. It was stuck. So, okay, now with a better grip of the locking pliers, I can take this bolt out without breaking it. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's unthreaded off the differential. Try not to get debris in there. Now we have to work on getting this bolt out of this fitting. I'm going to get my socket off. I'm actually going to get my air gun at this point so I can spin it a bunch, and hopefully that'll break free the bolt from in there. Okay, let's see what this does. There we go. And there it is. I'm going to definitely clean this up in my wire wheel, make it nice and new looking, and examine it to make sure it's not completely rotted. Here it is, all cleaned up and degreased. It's not the best looking, but it's also not the worst. All it's doing is it's acting as a breather for the differential, and it's holding the brake hose down, and it will still do this job in this condition. Is it the best? Nope. And I would probably replace it with my first opportunity, but I don't have one right now, so I'm going to have to reuse this one. Down the line, I'm going to replace it, but for now, like I said, it's going to have to go back in, and it will do the job temporarily. And in order to prevent debris from going into this hole as I work further, I'm going to put on the new brake hose and attach it with this bolt here. In order to hopefully prevent this from happening again, if this brake hose ever has to be replaced, I loaded this thing up with grease, and hopefully the grease gets in there and prevents rust from building up. Okay, let's snug this up. Just snug it, don't go too tight. And I'm gonna put this back on here. So now our hole is mostly plugged. We could even put back the brake lines in here. Now let's put back the two brake lines. Make sure these are nice and snug. And I put this one back as well. Now let's take the brake hose off of the ABS wire. It's mounted in 3 different places. This bracket comes with the new brake hose, and it's unboltable off the frame, but this is what holds it tight, so I'm going to try and loosen this up before I unbolt the bracket, otherwise it'll be all floppy and I won't be able to do much, honestly. So take your 11mm, slide it on here. Try to break this free. Okay, so it broke free off the threads, but it's spinning the line. That's fine, because what we can do is unbolt the bracket, unthread this whole thing by the hose, and then we will free it up after. Oh, looks like I broke the fitting free off the line. That's great, actually. Let's spray some rust penetrant. Try and get in from the back side of it. And now just unthread this all the way. Careful because brake fluid will start to come out. So I have a collection bucket ready to catch the drippage. Oh, okay. Line's off. Set it aside. Let's go unbolt this bracket off the frame. You don't have to remove the wheel for this, even though my wheel is off, but you can come through the fender well. You can see the bolt right there, or the nut and the stud, I guess. Let's take a 15mm socket and remove this. And here's the old brake hose. Get my little plastic pliers off of there. You can throw this away. Next, I'm going to spray some rust penetrant on this to lubricate it, even though it has brake fluid already. I know I might be contaminating the brake fluid in the line, but I will be flushing the brake fluid after this, so I'm not worried about it. Now I'm going to take my 11mm socket, and I just want to free up this fitting so it can spin nicely on the line. I'm going to put my 11mm socket on here and just give this a few spins while I hold the line. Okay, that spins a lot better now. There we go. This basically cleans off the debris that's in there. Now I'm going to spray it again to clean it. And the reason I'm using rust penetrant is because I want to lubricate where the fitting goes in so it can actually spin. All right, so this fitting spins freely. That's perfect. I cleaned up all the debris that was down here. Now we can get ready to put in the new brake hose. I'm going to let a few drops of brake fluid drip out of here. That way I know that the line has somewhat clean brake fluid going through it. Now get your new hose, slide it in through the hole there. I'm going to temporarily attach the nut, and then we'll go back and snug it in a second. That way at least it'll stay there. And now I can put in the line. And I want this to be able to move around a little bit, because sometimes it's hard to line up these fittings when you have no play. I grabbed a regular 11mm wrench because when you start this, it'll be a lot easier to work with it. Put the nut on and snug it up. All right, now let's grab our 11mm and just snug this up. All right, that is nice and tight. One last thing to do is to attach the ABS wire to this brake hose. That way it's secured. There we go. And now you would go ahead and bleed your brakes.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.